Or C with I Know I Can. I'm going to take some time this morning to talk about financial aid, federal loans, and award letters that you can expect to receive over the next couple of months before graduation. So just a recap, what is financial aid? That's funding provided to students and parents to help pay for educational expenses such as tuition, fees, housing, meal plan, etc. There are many different sources of financial aid that a student can receive funding from. So the federal government, state governments, individual institutions, so colleges and universities have institutionalized aid that a student can be eligible to receive, and then external sources from outside of the school or the government, companies, organizations, churches, nonprofits, where parents or family members might work. All of those are places students could receive financial aid from. Here you'll see the different types of financial aid. So we have scholarships and grants. Those are funding that students do not have to pay back. Scholarships and grants are awarded to students, and you do not have to worry about paying those back after you graduate or stop attending. Loans, so we have federal loans, private loans, and then employment. So scholarships, you'll see merit and talent scholarships. Those are scholarships that are looking at students' academic profile at high school, so grades, GPA, class rank. Talent scholarships, those are looking at what activities or what a student was involved in, whether that be athletics, maybe something related to music, so choir, band, orchestra. Those are scholarships that are looking at involvement of some form in high school. Departmental scholarships, these are scholarships that are based on the major that a student is planning on studying while they are enrolled in school. Some examples might be nursing, business, education, psychology, social work. Those are specific to the department that the student will be studying while they are enrolled. And then external scholarships, I mentioned those briefly on the last slide, but those can be from companies, organizations, nonprofits, churches, your parents' employers or family member employers. All of those can be sources for external scholarships. Grants, we do have grants that are available on the federal and state level, and then also institutional from the colleges and universities you're applying to. Loans, there are three different types of federal student loans that a student could receive, and I'll explain those in more detail over the next couple of slides. But you have the federal subsidized loan, the federal unsubsidized loan, and the federal Parent Plus loan. Those are all for students who have completed the FAFSA. And then there are private loans from an external source, whether that be a bank or credit union, maybe a student's parent or family member have worked with those banks or credit unions before. Students and parents can apply directly through those banks or credit unions for private student loans. And then there are options for employment, whether that be federal work study offered to students who have completed the FAFSA and indicate they are interested in federal work study. And then there are, of course, on-campus jobs or off-campus jobs, off of the campus, the college or university campus. So what are the types of student loans? As I mentioned in the previous slide, there are three types of federal loans a student could be eligible to receive: the federal subsidized loan, the federal unsubsidized loan, and then the federal Parent Plus loan. There are similarities and differences between the three loan options that I'll talk about here. The first that I'll talk about is the federal subsidized loan. This loan must demonstrate financial need as determined by the FAFSA. So a student must demonstrate financial need on their FAFSA to be eligible to receive the federal subsidized loan. With the federal subsidized loan, a student will not be collecting interest while attending a college or university. So while you're enrolled and you're utilizing the federal subsidized loan funding, you will not be collecting interest. This loan will be taken out in the student's name. So eventually, whenever you graduate or stop attending and you have to make payments on the loans that you borrowed, you will be responsible for this as the student. The unsubsidized loan, you do not need to demonstrate financial need. So a student will complete the FAFSA. You do not have to demonstrate financial need determined by the FAFSA, and you can borrow that unsubsidized loan. This one, however, interest will be collected while you are enrolled. So the minute that loan disperses to your account, it will start collecting interest. This one will also be borrowed in the student's name. Now, the Federal Parent Plus loan is a little different than those above the first two loans that I mentioned. You do not need to demonstrate financial need. Interest will be collected while the student is enrolled in college. However, this will be in a parent borrower's name. So let's say a student received either the subsidized loan or the unsubsidized loan, but they need additional funding. A parent can then go and complete the application for a Federal Parent Plus loan, indicate how much they would like to receive, and then if they are approved, that loan will apply directly to the student's account. A student and parent must complete their free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA, each academic year in order to be eligible for any of the three loans mentioned above. How much can a student receive each year? So you'll see here, your first year, you're eligible for $5,500. You cannot receive more in federal loan funding than that your first year. Your second year as second year undergraduate student, $6,500, and then third year and beyond, your junior senior year, $7,500 each year. You'll see below the total amount of federal loan funding a student can receive while they are enrolled in their undergraduate program. A dependent student cannot receive more than $31,000 total in loan funding, and an independent student, since they are more limited in what funding they can receive, is $57,500 total. So a student, no matter if you're a dependent or independent, cannot take out more loan funding than those amounts listed there during their entire undergraduate degree. Cost of attendance. So each school is required, every college or university is required to provide a cost of attendance to students. This is an estimated cost for a student to attend that institution, that college or university, for one academic year. So this is just an estimate. The amount it might cost for a student may be more, it may be less, depending on the courses that you're enrolling in, meal plans, where you're living on campus, if you're living on campus. So it might be more or less depending, but this cost of attendance is that figure to estimate what it will cost for one academic year. You'll see the cost of attendance does make up of direct costs. So these are expenses that will be directly on a school's bill or statement of account: tuition, fees, room and board. There are indirect costs, so these are expenses that you're not going to receive directly from the school. It won't be listed on the statement of account or the bill from each semester, but you can anticipate being assessed these expenses during your time you're enrolled. So books and supplies, transportation, let's say you're commuting to and from campus, or maybe you're going home over break or on the weekends, that transportation expenses. Miscellaneous or personal expenses, so maybe you go to the movies with friends, you go out to dinner, you need a new outfit for an internship or job shadowing. These are all miscellaneous personal expenses, groceries that you can anticipate experiencing while you're enrolled. So all of these make up that estimated cost for one academic year at each college and university. This is just an example of a cost of attendance at a public institution and a private institution. Like I said, it will be different from school to school. It can be different from school to school, but these are just an example of what you could anticipate for a public institution and a private institution. So how does a student qualify for financial aid? Hopefully you have had these conversations already, but if not, the free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA, is the document that is used by the Department of Education to determine what aid a student is eligible to receive. It opens up every October 1st. It's something that you will complete and your parent or family member will complete every single year you, as the student, will be enrolled. It can be sent to multiple institutions, so you can list up to 10 colleges and universities on the FAFSA. It will be completed by both the student and the parent every single year. You will see there are certain documents that will be required for you whenever you're completing the FAFSA. So you'll see those documents listed here. Both the student and the parent need to have this information readily available when completing the FAFSA. One thing you'll want to take note is that Social Security number is crucial when starting this process. In order to even create your username and password, a student and parent must have their Social Security number. Another thing to take note is that the financial aid, the free application for federal student aid, will always look at tax or income information from 2 years prior. So you'll see here for the 2023-2024 FAFSA, they are looking at financial information from 2021. This is just a screenshot of the studentaid.gov website where you will go and your parent or family member will go to complete the FAFSA. You'll indicate whether you are the student or parent, and then that will take you through the steps to log in using your FSA ID, your username and password for the FAFSA. What is the FSA ID? Essentially, it is your username and password. It's an electronic signature used to sign and submit the FAFSA. This will be the same the entire time you're enrolled for both the student and parent. This does help to lead to faster processing of the FAFSA as compared to years ago when they did paper applications. You'd have to print, sign, and then mail that in. This does speed up the process and make it more timely to receive your financial aid. When creating your FSA ID, it is important you double check the information that you are entering. Errors in a name, social security number, date of birth, address can all lead to delays. So you do want to double check that information. Make sure you are using your legal name as it's listed on your social security card. Do not use nicknames, or if you go by your middle name, do not use your nickname or middle name. Always go by what is listed on your social security card. So you submit the FAFSA, what happens next? It's sent to those 10 institutions that you list on the FAFSA. The student will receive their student aid report or SAR. This document does explain or provide a breakdown of what was listed or entered on the FAFSA. Your SAR or student aid report will show a student expected family contribution, the EFC. The EFC is used to determine aid eligibility for a student, so it's important to take note of your EFC. Once a student has been admitted to a college or university, that institution will then process your FAFSA and send the student a financial aid award letter. Typically, that does happen in February or March. You might be asked to provide additional documentation to verify what was entered in on the FAFSA, and your SAR will also show you if you are required to submit additional information. The expected family contribution, or EFC, that is the estimated amount that a student and family are expected to be able to contribute toward that cost of attendance from school to school. The EFC for dependent student is based on prior income for both student and parent, household size, the number of dependent children in the household that are going to be in college. It's going to be the same no matter what college or university a student decides to attend or where you're applying. That EFC will be the same. The cost of attendance might change from school to school or will change from school to school, but that EFC for a student will stay the same. The expected family contribution, the EFC, it will be replaced next year. So this year you will see the expected family contribution, or EFC, but next year you will see the student aid index, the SAI. So that will be a change to take note of for next year. This is an example of the student aid report, the SAR, that you can expect to receive once you submit your FAFSA. You'll see in the red outline at the top, the EFC is listed for the student, and then there's an asterisk next to the EFC. The second red outline below in the paragraph, you'll see that their FAFSA has been selected for a process called verification, meaning the student is going to have to submit additional information before their financial aid can be processed. So if you see that asterisk and then read below that you're selected for verification, that means additional information is going to need to be submitted to the colleges and universities you're applying to. Financial aid. As I mentioned, some financial aid funding requires a student to demonstrate financial need on their FAFSA. Financial need is calculated using a student and family's expected family contribution, that EFC, and then each college or university's cost of attendance. So they'll take their cost of attendance at each college and university, subtract a student and family's EFC, and that will show if a student qualifies for or demonstrates financial need or qualifies for financial need based aid. It is only offered to students that demonstrate financial need and have completed their FAFSA. You'll see here an example of financial need for a student that might be considering a public institution or a private institution. You'll see the differences in the cost of attendance, but the EFC stays the same from school to school, and then that will have an impact on the financial need at each institution for the student. Here's an example of a financial aid award letter from one school to the next. You'll see they both show that school's estimated cost of attendance and the breakdown. It'll show what aid, so scholarships, grants, loans, federal work study, a student has already qualified for and is eligible to receive, and then additional aid options will be shown as well for schools. Some schools might require you to accept all aid that has been offered. Some schools might have you just accept loans, since scholarships and grants are money that most students will accept, since you don't have to pay those back. Typically, the only aid that a student will have to accept would be loans, but you might have to go in and sign and accept your first financial aid offer when that is sent to you. Important things to remember: file your free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA, every year. It always opens on October 1st. Complete that after October 1st for the following academic year. Make sure you're reading over all financial aid documents thoroughly and follow all instructions, since they can differ from school to school. Make sure you're reading over that and doing everything that is necessary. If you do not know, ask. There are a lot of questions and a lot of things can be different from school to school, so make sure you're asking the questions that are necessary. Reach out to the financial aid office, reach out to the admissions office, check with your counselor here at Grove City or myself in the I Know I Can office. Just make sure you are asking those questions. And then check your student email at the college or university that you are planning to attend daily. All communications from this point out will primarily be sent to your student email, so make sure you start that process of checking it daily or at least every other day. Here are some scholarship resources that a student could potentially utilize to apply for additional scholarship opportunities. Some of these are local to Ohio and some are more national, but I definitely recommend applying for as many scholarships as possible to help lower the educational expenses that you and your family will be assessed while you're enrolled in school. These are great opportunities to help lower those expenses and to help cover those educational expenses from each college and university. You want to think 4 years, not just 1 year or 2 year. You want to think about the entire time you're going to be enrolled, so you do not have to take out more loan funding than necessary and have to pay back tons of loans once you graduate. Take advantage of these scholarship resources and apply to these scholarships before the end of this academic year. Again, feel free to reach out to me anytime you have any questions. Scan my QR code, it'll bring up my calendar and you can schedule an appointment. Send me an email, stop by my office in the back of the ERC under the college banners, and we can help answer questions that you might have. We can set up an appointment for later in that week during your lunch, study hall, or free period. Reach out, whatever is easiest for you, and I would be more than happy to help answer any questions that you might have.